Well, we've been chronicling this for the past week or two, and it took effect on Sunday. Los Angeles County has a new bail schedule. The Los Angeles County Superior Court made a decision that for many crimes, many everyday crimes that you're aware of, it would be a case of cite and release. There could be circumstances, obviously, for the most violent of crimes and other situations where they might call on a special magistrate to come and determine whether or not bail is necessary in the situation. Just before this took effect, 12 California towns went to court to try to get an injunction slapped on this taking effect, but they didn't get a hearing in time for it to start on Sunday, October 1st, and we thought they were going to have a hearing today, but we think it's probably been delayed. There's probably questions about where it should be held since this decision was made by the LA County Superior Court. Where do you go with trying to slap an injunction on it? But anyway, to talk about all the issues around zero bail, we're bringing on Jeffrey Clayton. He's the policy director, executive director for the American Bail Coalition.
Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right.
Good.
And the American Bail Coalition, you represent who specifically here?
Insurance companies who underwrite all the bail bondsmen in California.
Yeah. And what's the industry's opinion of this anarchy that's been unleashed here in LA County?
Well, the public doesn't realize this is an outrage because what really happened is the County of Los Angeles and the City of Los Angeles were sued by activists called the Civil Rights Corps, which led to all this, and the Attorney General was sued. And all of them said it's not our problem. We don't care. We're not going to defend the law. And so Judge Ruff held that the bail schedule was unconstitutional. And these cities, unfortunately, didn't come to the party in time, and that's why we are where we are. I mean, luckily now we're going to have sort of a legal throwdown. We'll get to the bottom of this. But
yeah, I had heard
how we
this.
got here is everybody gave up.
Yeah, I had heard this, that the sheriff and LAPD chief didn't come and speak out in court to keep this bail schedule.
Why not? Why didn't they do that?
Well, essentially, they said the judges, were the ones that set bail, which is true, which is why the Attorney General should have defended them. But again, when this whole scenario happened in San Francisco when Kamala Harris was Attorney General, she didn't defend it either. So it's no surprise that the Attorney General is not going to defend California state law.
Sometimes I think, like our sheriff, Robert Luna, and definitely the chief of police in L.A., Thomas Moore, that they straddle the middle on this. Michael Moore, rather. They straddle the middle on this, and they never quite denounce anything, but they never quite come to our side.
It's like they took a knee, right? Michael Moore did to the protesters in 2020. It's that kind of thing.
Exactly. Now that the bail policy was put into effect, they're protesting. But where were they? Because this bail idea from the LA County Superior Court Judge Lawrence Riff goes back to the middle of last year.
Right. I mean, they need to defend California law whether they agree with it or not.
But why aren't they defending it? Why aren't they defending it like day one, holding press conferences, going on media circuits and talk shows and say, this is outrageous, this is wrong, we're all in danger. After it happens, it's like, I really don't like this.
Well, I don't know. I think it's because the activists are basically the friends of the people that are ultimately in charge in California, which is they want zero bail, and this is the mechanism they can get it because they can't seem to pass it in the legislature. They couldn't get over the referendum, and this is really the only thing they have left.
Yeah, that's the other thing people wondered. I mean, we voted on this. Proposition 25 in 2020, statewide, bail was upheld.
Exactly, and the whole idea that bail is unaffordable, I mean, we've won 2 cases in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, and the Supreme Court has already looked at this and said there's no problem with poor people bail. So the only place this theory is flying is in California, where nobody's defending it.
I was going to ask you that because they keep making the claim, this is clearly unconstitutional, but you said it's already been argued to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Yeah, there's been 2 cases in the 11th Circuit, both of which the U.S. Supreme Court has refused to hear because they're basically holding the idea that, somebody can't afford their bail is not an unconstitutional situation as long as the judge actually hears their appeal, which is what's set up to do in California right now.
Okay, then how does a judge get away with saying it's unconstitutional when the Supreme Court of the U.S. has already said otherwise?
Well, there's nobody defending it. The whole idea that it doesn't protect public safety, if we could get in the case and make the argument, when people are in jail, they don't commit crimes. That's the whole thing that's being missed here.
It's so simple.
The general deterrence of the fact that, if there's a threat of bail, then people aren't going to commit the crime. So there's a lot of arguments that just aren't getting in here. And frankly, I think Judge Ruff's hands were tied.
Why? Why do you say that?
I don't think he really had anything to go on except what the activists had presented. because the Attorney General didn't present anything and nobody else really presented anything. So
everybody's in on this. So
there was no other side.
The Attorney General, I believe, but the police chief and the sheriff, they're all in on it too. They're all secretly ultra progressive and want to empty the jails and prisons.
No, I don't know about that. I think they have a plausible argument to say that the judges should be defended and California state law should be defended, and that the Attorney General should be the one to do that. Unfortunately, he's just not doing it.
Well, if everybody's going to say "not my job," then there's nobody around.
What about, John, your idea yesterday that maybe we could make bail more commensurate for people that are poor, just making sure it's important enough that they, don't commit the crime when they're out on bail? Is there a way to change the way it's done?
A sliding scale based on whatever your net worth is or whatever your paycheck is. I mean, I think they have that in some jurisdictions around the country, don't they?
They do, and the former county court judge in my hometown of Denver had a sliding scale system where he had an income bracket on the top, and then sort of the bail schedule was based on that. And there were different categories for different levels of income.
Did that work?
I thought it did. I mean, at least drew attention to the fact that judges needed to take a better look at it in terms of, what's appropriate and what's not, and not just say everybody who commits this assault is therefore $100,000. Well, that should be a little, maybe even higher for the extremely rich guy who are worried is going to take off.
Right, exactly. It's to keep you from taking off, so you make it high enough so that it'll hurt if they don't show up to their hearing.
Are you hearing anything so far about LA County zero bail? Anything?
I think it's too early yet because, the cases in the pipeline still get adjudicated under the old system. So it usually takes a few weeks before we find out, how things are looking.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. You're right. I guess somebody who was arrested before October 1st is still right under the old rules.
Right.
But odds are this is not going to turn out well if there's virtually no consequence to stealing just about anything. From retail shops, your car, your dog. If there's no immediate consequence, not even bail, not even a temporary stay in jail.
You got to have something at risk, right?
Well, then it's going to be anarchy, is it not? At some point.
Well, we learned that during the pandemic, so we're living with that right now. But the ultimate result is there's going to be no bail schedule at all, and I don't know what the world like that's going to look like because the LA courts just aren't funded to set everybody's bail, which is going to happen. So it's going to be mass chaos if we go to a system like that where we just, judges are going to have a hearing on every single one because they just don't have the resources to do that. So they'll just have whole swaths of people that they never see and just let out on zero bail because they won't, the measure of getting bail in LA will be how many court hearings can we have.
What's your opinion of this lawsuit by these 12 cities and where should it be taken to? What court?
I think it's good. I think, ultimately, I think the California Supreme Court's going to have to decide this question. They could remove it to federal court and try to get the Ninth Circuit to do it, but we know that's a non-starter. So I think they'll have to combine these cases, I'm assuming, and we'll get eventually a decision from the California Supreme Court. Hopefully there'll be an injunction while we can figure all of this out.
All right, Jeffrey Clayton, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, he is the executive director, policy director for the American Bail Coalition. And, of course, we wanted his input on what's going on in L.A. County effective Sunday, which is the new bail schedule system. Bail, cite and release for a lot of crimes, some of which would really horrify you, but the one we keep highlighting is car theft. More coming up. Johnny Ken, KFI-AM 640 live everywhere, iHeartRadio app.